We are here tonight as NASW Colorado and our DEI committee host the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee re-energized event. And we are super excited about what our evening with you will hold. We honor Black History Month and we honor each Black social worker in the state of Colorado and wherever they may be. As you know, we are enduring a year-long viral pandemic and a 400+ year racial pandemic that has continued to plague society and to cause great harm to Black people. Racism and white supremacy are not restricted to any one area in society. It is deep and it is wide. To all of us who have been hurt and or carry deeply painful historical traumas, I hope for healing. And it is my hope that this time with you tonight can in some small way be a part of your healing. Diversity includes our characteristics, but not solely based on race, but also includes ability, our size, culture, background, and for me, includes all marginalized populations of individuals in the LGBTQIA+ community and in the cognitive disabilities community, as well as other types of disabilities. We as Black people are intersectional individuals. We are not a monolith. Yet we also take pride in who we are as a culture. Equity is offering a seat at the table and the guarantee of fair treatment, access, and opportunity. Inclusion is authentically bringing traditionally excluded individuals and or groups in processes, activities, and decision, policy making in a way that shares power and ensures equal access to opportunities and resources. Equality is where the need for an invitation to the table doesn't even exist because everyone has a fair chance. Now, I'm not naive, I'm empathetic, but I'm not naive. With the society we live in, I know that's a high hope. Still, it is my hope that social workers, no matter race, ethnicity, creed, color, sex, gender identity, or culture, will strive to make equality an ultimate goal. This will take continual and consistent effort at all levels of service delivery, from the micro, meso, and especially at the macro level where real systemic change takes place. So I want to ask you, my already racially tired and weary friends and accomplices, to get involved. And as the late, great Honorable John Lewis advised us, stay in good trouble. I want to give special thanks to the Queer Business Alliance, our wonderful sponsor tonight. We are grateful for your sponsorship and appreciate your generosity and making it possible for our speakers to receive an honorarium tonight. Thank you so much for your support of our mission. As our speakers present tonight, please put your questions for our speakers in the chat box. I have an important discussion point for you. We would like our time tonight to be a decision-making and participatory space. Black social workers, you are welcome here, and we want to hear from you. We know NASW Colorado is comprised of many different individuals with various and varied perspectives. So we want to remind our white attendees that this meeting is shaped in such a way as not to cause further harm to our Black social workers. We do want you to know you are welcome as allies and accomplices. And we ask that you work to create a space for the community to inform NASW Colorado. Thank you. Now I'm going to introduce our first speaker of the night. And our first speaker is Madam Feliz Fraser, current president of the Association of Black Social Workers Colorado. Felice, she, her, hers, is a proud native New Yorker, loving and living in Colorado for the past 21 years. And she is an LCSW. She received her BS in social work from the Metropolitan State University of Denver in 2009 and her MSW in social work from the University of Denver in 2010. She is currently pursuing her doctoral in education in organizational leadership from North Central University. She is the past board president of NASW Colorado, a member and president of the Association of Black Social Workers Colorado chapter. And Give an Hour, which is an organization that donates pro bono mental health services to active and inactive members of the armed forces and their families. Much of her time is dedicated to her students at Independence Academy, where she is a school social worker. If Felice had to label herself in one word, it would be advocate, though she prefers few, if any labels at all. Thank you, Madam Felice, and I open the floor to you. You're on mute.
I have to be smarter than my computer. Thank you, Dr. J. Thank you, Dr. Julie. I've been sitting here thinking about this for the longest time, and I will tell you that I originally became a member of NASW in 2008 when Renee Rivera was the executive director. And I started as a member because I was excited just to have the letters NASW membership after my name. I didn't know what it was all about until I was approached by Renee to come in and run for president. And the one thing that I found, yes, I have a regular phone, I apologize. the one thing that I found as a Black student, because I did go to the University of Denver, was that there were very few people who looked like me. There were very few people who could respond like me. There was very few people who understood the cultural undertones that I had. And I'm not speaking just in terms of a Black social worker, but a Black Latina social worker, an East Coast social worker, a social worker who's very outspoken and unapologetically me, will always be unapologetically me. And it wasn't until I found the Association of Black Social Workers. I mean, many years we've tried to put this diversity team together, and it fell flat on its face on many occasions. And it wasn't until I got acquainted very much so with the Association of Black Social Workers that I realized that there was a comfort in knowing that there were people who looked like me, people who thought like me, people who understand the history and understand everything that ancestrally that comes into being a Black social worker. We are here. And this is the time for us to announce and pronounce that we are here. And inclusive means inclusive. There are no exclusions to inclusive. It's a hard spot to be in. And I learned from Jacqueline Stanton is here in attendance tonight, and she is my predecessor to the ABSW. And I learned that out of 3,000 registered social workers in the state of Colorado, 3,000, I believe there's only 150 or 155 to date that are Black. And they're scattered all out throughout the community. And it's difficult to service a community that's so spread apart because they're so afraid to come forward because there's lack of understanding. Does that mean that people who are not Black can't service them? No, it doesn't. But there's a certain level of distrust that we're trying to bridge that gap of trust so that we become this cohesive environment, this cohesive thing. My biggest talking point personally on a meso level is to learn how to vet our social workers and anti-racism work, to make sure that they know that when they walk in the door with people that look like me, that there's some things that they can and cannot do. And we're looking to you guys to let us know how we can work together to not only create the bridge, but cross the bridge and invite others to go with us. And with that, I will stand down for a moment and pass it back to you, Dr. Julie.
Thank you so much, Madam Felice. I appreciate your words, and I am just so grateful for all the work that you have done for NASW Colorado, what you've done for our communities, for our city as a whole, for the youth and the children within our communities, and for the military who are active and inactive, and just what you do in general for the populations of people and for the social workers and the students in our state. And so I just want to really thank you for that. And I also want to pass it off now to Dr. Baranski, who's going to introduce our next speaker of this evening.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Claxton. And I'll also be introducing the next speaker, as Alex has some spotty Wi-Fi. So Miss Taya Hancock, pronouns she, her, and hers, is from Pueblo, Colorado. She's a student at CSU Fort Collins and is a third-year social work major with a soon-to-be added ethnic studies minor. She serves as a BSW student representative for NASW Colorado. Taya volunteers her time as a peer mentor for the Black/African American Cultural Center at CSU Fort Collins and is the lead mentor for GPS, a youth mentoring program also with the Black/African American Cultural Center. She also holds a position as president for the undergrad student organization United Women of Color at CSU. After college, Taya plans to pursue her master's in social work. And Miss Taya, thank you.
Hello, everyone. And I just want to start off like, thank you, Dr. Baranski, Dr. Julie Clarkson, for choosing me to be a speaker at this event. You know, I was very honored and I was like shocked too. So for my speech, I kind of wanted to speak on the perspective of undergraduate social workers, because a lot of the times in these big events, like our voices are not as heard as often. Usually you hear more from masters and licensed social workers. So I just kind of wanted to shed a light, shed a light on our perspective and like our experiences in undergrad. As I start to prepare myself for my final year of undergrad, I can't help but feel doubt in my education and ability to be an effective social worker. For the past 3 years, I have been studying to obtain my bachelor's degree, and I feel nowhere close to prepared. I question whether I can properly serve my community or am even prepared to be an advocate for my community. I decided to major in social work because I wanted to create positive change within my community. The systemic racism and discrimination that I have witnessed and experienced is unacceptable, and the work needed to alter this conflict is long overdue. From the recent protests this past summer to the many protests that have occurred way before I was even born, there's no denying that there's so much work to be done. However, I am inspired by the work that has already been done by the people before me. As someone who has recently turned 21 years old, this seems like a lot to take on, and I can feel the burden. Trying to change systemic practices that have created barriers for people of color is no easy feat, which is why I turned to social work to teach me how I can make a difference. I do understand that it will take more than a bachelor's degree in social work before I can be the next Angela Davis, but it's not comforting for me to be close to the end and not see a tangible next step. After my bachelor's, then it's my master's, then a license, and then what? After I have received all of these titles, what's next? How do I implement my learning into real change? Where do I start after graduation? This uncertainty stems from the crucial components that are absent when obtaining a bachelor's in social work. Social work is such a broad field, and to cover every inch of it would take who knows how long. But just like any other major, there are things that can and should be fixed within the teaching of social work. For one example, my textbooks are written with one population in mind, a white population. The skills and theories I'm learning were created and suited to be used for white people. How can I, as a Black social worker, feel fully equipped to use inadequate skills on a client that does not fit that description? Our world is constantly changing and adapting, and as social workers who are at the forefront of that change, our courses should reflect that. In many of my classes, the term cultural competency and cultural humility are being introduced. Teaching cultural competency and cultural humility is a step in the right direction of being more culturally inclusive, but how inclusive are we being if we're not taking the time to analyze if the materials we are using are culturally inclusive? Currently, social work students are being failed by not having meaningful discussions about the world around us. So many social work students come to class dealing with events that are happening around all of us. Yet rarely is there ever a discussion of how current events are affecting the communities that these social work students identify with. How many of us in this group can say that they have talked about the Black Lives Matter movement since August? What continued actions are social work classes and communities doing to continue the movement? As important as it is for us to learn the many theories and skills needed to be a successful social worker, it is also just as important to discuss what is happening in the world around us. How has COVID affected lower socioeconomic families? How does the defund the police movement affect social workers? Ignoring the important conversations or saving them for another day is not helping the upcoming social workers of our generation. When we enter the social work field, we want to be able to bookmark these topics for another day, and we should not want to. And being a Black woman pursuing social work, there are certain things that I must hold that my white peers will most likely never experience. Going into a field that is largely represented by marginalized communities and being from a marginalized community, I feel that I owe it to my community to go above and beyond. I almost worry that I will take on their issues as my own because I don't see a client. I see an uncle, an aunt, or a cousin in need. I feel this heavy weight on my shoulders to be a strong advocate for my community and to be the activist for change. I feel that with my privilege, with the privilege I hold, it is my duty to give back to those less fortunate than me. I don't see space for myself to fail because I have a community relying on me to be the catalyst. As I refer back to my previous questions, circulating around if I am prepared to be an advocate for my community and how I can properly serve my community, what I am slowly beginning to learn is that these questions cannot be answered in a textbook. They cannot be solved with theories or extensive research. The answers to these questions lie within real-world application. The truth is, I will never know if I'm ready until there's a client folder on my desk or a person in need standing in front of me. If there is one thing that I have learned about social work, is that the most of your learning happens on the job, and that's the scariest part because that is where most of the mistakes may happen as well. But I find comfort in knowing that I am not alone in my learning nor my journey. These past 3 years have opened doors of opportunity to me that I didn't even know existed. I'm beginning to meet people who are shaping my perspective of social work and allowing my future to seem more attainable. Although there will be mistakes, I have the resources to fix them or at least know where to find them. My concerns and worries are nothing new, but that doesn't make them any less important. Yes, there's so much change that needs to be made, but I see that change coming. I see it in myself and some of my peers. The social workers and advocates who came before me are passing on a torch that I may not be entirely ready to take yet, but with their guidance, I soon will be. These changes that are happening are coming from people who look like me and are similar in age to me. If they're not letting a faulty education system stop them, then why should I? Two of my favorite quotes are, "We are the ones we've been waiting for" by Alice Walker. I say this to myself to remind myself not to wait for someone to give me the okay to succeed, and that all I need to get started is me. Nothing can be changed by waiting. And then lastly, another favorite quote of mine is, "The best things in life are placed on the other side of fear" by Will Smith. I wouldn't necessarily say I fear graduation because I'm ready to be done, for sure, but that next step does make me feel some anxiety. However, I look forward to whatever best thing is waiting for me on that other side. Thank you.
Excellent, Taya. Thank you. That was fantastic.
Yes.
You'd probably be getting a standing ovation if we were all in person here. Yes. So next up, we have Madam Tiffanee Lenox. Tiffanee Lenox has a Bachelor's of Art in Psychology from the University of Colorado in 2002. She then graduated with a Master's of Social Work, At-Risk Youth Clinical Track from the University of Denver in June of 2005. Since graduation, Tiffanee has spent most of her career working with the at-risk population in both private and public agency settings. For almost 3 years, Tiffanee worked in homeless prevention services at Jewish Family Services of Colorado. Tiffanee has worked with young adults with developmental disabilities, families, children, seniors, and youth within the system. Currently, Tiffany is a school social worker in Denver Public Schools, working at John H. Amesi. I think I said that right. Tiffany serves on the school advisory board at John H. since 2018. In this 20 to 21 years, she was voted by her peers to serve on the school social worker, school psychologist department's department team lead committee to provide a voice for social workers and school psychologists that work in the district. She has focused her career in working with all populations to get a well-rounded perspective of how to serve the whole child, whole person. Tiffany is also a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Epsilon Nu Omega Chapter, currently serving as the Vice President of the Denver, Colorado chapter of the National Association of Black Social Workers. Tiffany plans to bring a new perspective to being a change agent within the Denver metro area. Madam Tiffany.
Thank you, Dr. Baranski and Dr. Julie Coxton. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this event. Where do I start? So when I decided to be a social worker, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And when I got into DU and I started getting my feet wet and I started getting really active with our multicultural center, I kind of felt like I had a direction, I had a calling, and I knew that what I wanted to do is I wanted to, first of all, help people. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to be a change agent. And that was the beginning of this whirlwind of what I've been through. Like, I started out doing nonprofits at Jewish Family Service. So I got the foundation for learning how to work with people in crisis, learning what poverty looks like, understanding poverty, which I think is huge. If you don't have that framework, you're not able to understand the mindset of people that are in poverty, you know. You're not able to have that understanding, that empathy, and be able to meet them where they're at. And so I feel like that time at Jewish Family Service really helped me push away all my biases, and it helped me understand really, how do I work with people in crisis? How do I support them the best way? So I feel like that was huge foundation for me working in the schools. This year's kind of been that year where I've kind of got an opportunity to get my foot in the door in leadership positions, which I'm super excited about. There's not a lot of people of color, a lot of social workers that are Black in Denver Public Schools. The retention is not the greatest. And so it was important for me to be a part of the department team lead, because I felt like it was time to have a face with the voice, and it was time for us to start making the groundwork to really figure out, how can we bring more people of color into this school district, and not only bring them in, but how can we support them? How can we keep them? And how can we encourage them? Which is what we're dealing with. How do we keep them and encourage them? Because there's so much work in the school system. And I feel like sometimes it gets kind of shuffled, you know, under all the other things that are going on in social work. But school social work, there's such a great need to have people that look like them, kids that can identify with you. They feel connected. They feel like you understand them. There's such a need. And I feel like I've done my best work working with families and youth and children. Because number one, not a lot of people want to do it. Not a lot of people want to work with youth, and not a lot of people want to work with that population. But I feel like it's been very rewarding to me, because it has taught me patience. It has also taught me to keep 10 steps ahead of them. Like when they're doing something, make sure you 10 steps ahead because you don't know what they're going to do. But always being prepared and always have your tool belt of things that you can do with the families and the students. If this doesn't work, let me take this tool out and try this tool. You know, it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you moving. And not only that, but it keeps you grounded and it teaches you to be really true to yourself. Because if I don't teach anything else on his panel, youth see through you. They know if you're genuine. Children know if you're genuine. And so it's important to be true to yourself because they know if you really care, if you don't care. And so it's important, you know, to really reach into that piece. If that's something that maybe you need to work on, knowing your truth and being real and being genuine. Because once they know that you care, they're like magnets. And you won't want to leave because they really feel like you genuinely care about them. So for me, I feel like every step that I've made in my career has kind of given me that foundation that I needed to really be able to help the population that I serve, if that makes sense. You got to start somewhere. And if my advice to any students that are going to college and they're graduating, you may not get that top job that you want. You may not get that number one, the one on the top of your list. But if, you get your foot in the door and you get that experience and you learn from that one and you keep going and you keep building, you're going to eventually get to where you want to be. And you just got to keep in your head that that's temporary. And every step is going to build that foundation for you so that you can be your very best. I still have mentors, Miss Jackie. She was my graduate mentor and she's still in my life, and she's taught me so many things, and I've just learned that it's important to keep those people in your life because they keep you humble and they keep you wanting more and they keep you learning more. And it's important to make sure you connect with your mentors and keep them in your backseat. You never know when something's going to come up or you might have something you might want to talk to them about. Just keep your mentor circle around you. Don't let them go after grad school. Hold on to them because they are precious gems. And I value every supervisor I've had. They've all dropped gems in me that continue to grow each day. So, congratulations to those that are graduating. Don't give up. Remember that you got to start somewhere, but it's building that foundation that's going to make you the best social worker you can be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Tiffany, for being with us tonight and for giving us your words of wisdom, those nuggets of wisdom for all of us, actually. I know for students, it's amazing to get a mentor or two or three and really stay with those mentors throughout your career, but also for people who are seasoned to have consultation and mentorship. And I think that you really spoke to everybody here. So I just appreciate that. I want to thank sincerely, I want to thank Dr. Baranski, and I want to sincerely thank Miss Alex Cardona, because they really worked hard to put this event together. And I'm appreciative of that. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. And I want to sincerely thank each one of our speakers respectively. Madam President of the Association of Black Social Workers of Colorado, Feliz Fraser. I want to thank Ms. Taya Hancock, our NASW-BSW board member representative. And I want to thank Vice President of NABSW, Ms. Tiffanee Lenox. I want to thank you, Madam Vice President. The end goal is really, we're looking at what we will do as a committee next, based on the need that we are hearing from the community. So we're wanting to hear from you all. We want to know, what do we need to do and how can we be of real service and real help at NASW? What can we do to service the Black community, marginalized individuals that come into the spaces, and how can we do that best? So we're looking to you for you to be open, honest, and to give responses and information. And we're going to take that information and make an action plan from it. So that's what we're really looking for tonight.